Well, I was in tears when I heard the news because the Reverend Jesse Jackson is the kind of person who was going to live forever, despite his illnesses, despite the challenges of his life. We always felt that he could be undefeatable as far as his health was concerned. And although there have been quite a few health shocks where he's been taken to hospital, this was the end. And he finished a important chapter in the history of the civil rights movement today. The word icon is used quite often to describe people, but in terms of his contribution, he was iconic. I met him first 40 years ago when I went to a meeting of the Congressional Black Caucus, and they were quite surprised to see me because I was the only person of Asian origin there, and they didn't think that a person who was Indian was necessarily black. But he was able to embrace all this, and he welcomed me as part of that very auspicious group, the Black Caucus. I brought him to Parliament on a number of occasions. In particular, when I chaired the Home Affairs Select Committee, he gave evidence to my committee, and the room was absolutely packed. I don't think there was a single session that I did that had so many people jam-packed and waiting outside to hear anyone speak to a select committee. He came to Leicester, of course, our hometown, and a park was named by the City Council after him. It was a simple request, let's honour this man who's done so much, and they responded very promptly. But the person who actually prepared the park did something very different. They didn't just put a board up. This particular individual, who was a person who studied the civil rights movement, actually created around the park a civil rights walk, so you could see the milestones in the civil rights movement. So our young people, in particular in Rushmede, can go to Jesse Jackson Park and they can walk the walk and see how he managed to go from someone who was not allowed to read a book in a public library because he was black to a person who was feted all over the world by presidents and prime ministers. I suppose my last impression of him is when I said, "How are you? Are you all right?" when I saw him in Chicago just a few months ago. And he spoke very haltingly and deliberately and said, "Well, you know, all the people of my generation have gone. I'm the only one left." And he seemed quite sanguine about it. But what a man, what a legend, what a great individual, what a heart of gold, what a fighter for peace and justice, the world over. We will never forget his work, his speeches, his devotion. He's represented in Congress now by his son, Congressman Jonathan, came visit with him and was inspired. And actually after that visit decided to run for Congress himself, and he won. And his second son, Jesse Jr., who's also running for Congress. So the legacy is secure. He has done immense work for not just America, but all over the world. I, for one, will miss him. I cannot imagine walking into a room in Chicago and not seeing his face always lit up. We have lost a titan today. I think the first thing is we have a park named after him. And therefore, nowhere in the United Kingdom is there a Jesse Jackson Park. In fact, nowhere in the United States is there a Jesse Jackson Park. So this is the only place there is with his name on a piece of land. The second way is to remember him is the way he struggled in the civil rights movement and accepted that if you were black or brown or Chinese or an ethnic minority, you had to do your best, had to fight hard, but you also had to accept that it was a challenge to get into the club. We're still actually a long way off fulfilling his legacy. The most important day for him, I suppose, was the election of a black president. He was, after all, the first black man to run for president, and he won some primaries, which was unbelievable. Everyone sought his endorsement when they ran. Bill Clinton sought his endorsement, John Kennedy, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, all the Democrats always sought his endorsement, and he gave it willingly to those he believed shared the cause. I think the third thing is he's an inspiration to young people. He had incredible public speaking skills, which he had honed and developed. And it meant so much to be able to hear one of his speeches.